Hello and welcome back to Serendipity Intended. My name is JJJan. I am so glad that you are here. It is January 10th and time for another day of Junk Journal January. And so let's take a quick look at the prompt in my Hobonichi and see what our prompt is for today. So if we take a look here, day 10 is mood. And so I'm going to tackle that. Now, I don't know whether it's because it's rainy today or just that it's, the middle of winter and it's kind of cold and gloomy. But the word mood right now to me says moody. So I went through my magazine stash and all my piles of paper, most of which are left over from my December project. And I pulled out some things that just felt, I don't know, a little bit moody. And probably the most important was this image that I have had in my stash for a really long time. And it just sort of screams Edgar Allan Poe, dark, moody, sad. So I decided to make this kind of my focal point, and I pulled some papers out of my scrap bowl that I thought worked with this image. I don't know why the poem Annabel Lee kept coming in my head, but that was sort of what I was thinking about as I was doing this page. And just kind of try to play with what to do. And like I said, I pulled some pieces, but I really had no idea how I was going to put them on the page. And then I had the thought that this strip kind of looked similar to the focal point. And I thought maybe if I did sort of a reverse torn look between the two, and then maybe layer in some additional browns. And I thought the texture of this wood image matched the texture of this vertical bit that's going down the right side of the focal point. And I kind of wanted to play with that. So again, when I'm collaging, I know some people like to just kind of stick things down as they go. I do like to sort of play a little bit and see what feels best to my eye. Now here I'm just marking where I want this image to go on the page so that I can put it back there again. And I have been finding that this tape runner works much better on the Hobonichi paper, mostly because it doesn't cause the paper to wrinkle. So I think I'm going to continue to use that at least for anything that goes directly onto the Hobonichi. You can see there I'm not being too terribly precise. The image not only is sort of dark and gloomy and sad, but it also looks broken down and rough. And so I wanted edges on my page that sort of echoed that idea or that feeling to further create the mood. Now, I wanted to do some additional layering here, not a ton, because I'm trying to keep the bulk down, but I had all of these other bits. So then I thought I'd play just a little bit with how I might create another little focal image. I really liked this text, "To my love, Amy," and I wanted to find some way to use it on the page. I'd also grabbed a couple of mushrooms because they just sort of seemed to fit the sort of old and decaying and deteriorating feeling. So I grabbed those mushrooms. I really liked this quote. It's not from Poe, but it sort of, again, fits the mood that I was going for. So I wanted to find a way to include that as well. I did think about crinkling the quote up and then realized that it probably wasn't going to tear or crinkle real well, so in the end I just cut off the extra brown. Now that white paper is actually a piece of wax paper with some paint on it that I had used underneath of something that I was doing to protect the page behind. And I like to use that every once in a while in my junk journals just to add a little bit of interest and also texture. I also really like using wax paper because it's a little bit translucent, so you can see through it to what's on the other side. Now here I did decide to use the glue stick because I was gluing onto a paper other than the Hobonichi paper underneath. So I'm not as worried about wrinkly pages as when I'm adhering something directly to the base page. Now, I originally thought that that mushroom was a sticker and then ended up deciding that it wasn't. But I didn't like the plastic. It seemed a little bit too shiny. So this is just a distressing tool. So I roughed up the plastic so it was a little bit less shiny than originally. The quote felt a little too new, so I just grabbed some archival black ink and smudged around the edges. I wouldn't say I edged it so much as I smudged around the edges just to make it also feel a little bit worn and wore out. All in all, this page went together pretty quickly. And I am pretty satisfied with the results. And then just when I thought I was done, I had a little bit of a eureka moment and thought of just the place that I could use that strip that I had wanted to use at the beginning. To my love Amy, or to my dear Amy. Now trim it down just a bit. And I also did tear the end to make it a little bit narrower. And once again, grab that archival black to age it a bit, make it look a little bit more worn so that it tied in with the other elements on the page. And then I took a little bit of a leap of faith after I did that, and I crumpled it up. Just wanted to add a little bit more age and worn and distress to it, and I really loved the way that it looked afterwards. And that spot in the upper right-hand corner it just felt like it was the right place to put that message. It's part of the picture, but not necessarily the focal point. I went back over that once I glued it down with a little bit of distress ink in a vintage photo color just to warm it up a bit and also accentuates some of the wrinkles. I'm really satisfied with this page, and I love how it turned out. I hope that this inspires you to make something absolutely wonderful today. Thank you for joining me, and as always, make a great day.